Pushing Back the Shadows, support and awareness for mental health. Hello and welcome to episode 48 of the Pushing Back the Shadows podcast. My name is Alex Davis, I'm the founder of Pushing Back the Shadows. So, in today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that's been close to my heart recently. Kind of with a string of some of the bad days that have been going on, and it's something that I think is still quite important to talk about. There's been a couple of tweets going around lately about mental health advocates and their kind of connection to bad days as well. Now, it's not quite what you're thinking. We're not causing bad days or anything like that. What it actually is about is how mental health advocates, even though they're standing up for mental health and they're kind of championing it and doing all these other things in relation to mental health, how they still have bad days too. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to talk about to you, with you a little today. Kind of that advocacy immunity, if you like. And it kind of comes off the idea a little bit of diplomatic immunity, something a little bit along those lines. Because you think about diplomatic immunity, you know, by its very definition, it's the privilege of exemption from certain laws and taxes granted to diplomats by the state in which they are working. Yeah? You with me on that one? Well, a lot of people seem to be under the impression that if you're an advocate for mental health, then you've kind of got it all together. You know what you're doing, you know how to do whatever it is you're doing, you've got it all together. Yeah? And that, yeah, okay, you still get the bad days, but you know exactly how to cope with them, you put all the things in place, and your bad days really aren't that much worse than your good days. Now, I don't know whether this is you. You might be an advocate listening to this. You might be somebody who's not an advocate. And you think, okay, advocates struggle too. Or you may think that advocates do or don't struggle. You know, whichever it is. But that's okay. We've all got our opinions. But so there is this kind of misconception that advocates have almost, for want of a better word, an advocacy immunity. You know, they're advocating for mental health so they don't get those struggles quite as badly as anybody else would. And it's surprising the number of people I've talked to who say, well, you always seem to have it completely together. You seem to know what you're talking about, and you seem to never really have the bad days. You have it all under control. And yet, really, it is, for want of a better word, a big misconception. Because, do you know what? That's not the case. We don't always have it together. We don't always know exactly what to do to prevent the bad days. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you a little bit about what being an advocate actually means, and also what it doesn't mean. So let's tap in. So, those of you who followed what we do, or even if you're kind of fairly new to it and you've just kind of had a little look, we, that is me and Cheryl, we both are mental health advocates. We stand up for it, we challenge the stigma around it and some of the misconceptions that people have. We seek to educate friends and family members so that they know what to do, what not to do, how to help, what it actually means to have whatever condition their loved one has. We also support those who are actually going through the conditions themselves. So it's a lot of things along those lines is what advocates actually do. They support people, they challenge the ideas that are wrong, and they speak up in favour of the ideas that are right. And there are quite a few of us out there. Whether that comes as a surprise or not, there are still a lot of us out there. But that's what we do. And the actual definition of an advocate is someone who publicly supports something. Yeah, that's just the general one. That's not kind of like an advocate in a court case for somebody or anything like that. And so what we do, we use our experiences. If we've got any kind of qualifications, we use those too. And we speak up for the right ideas and make sure that the voices of those struggling with mental health can be heard. And really, it kind of almost builds us up ready for that kind of misconception, that feeling that we should have it kind of all hunky-dory, we should be able to cope with whatever's thrown at us, almost in the sense of a diplomatic immunity. And yet we do have bad days as well. We do have those days, those weeks, sometimes even those months, where we can't seem to get it right. Currently, I'm still in the middle of one. A couple of weeks where things haven't been quite so good. Things haven't gone the way they should. And where I haven't been able to get the motivation, haven't been able to get the energy to do what I've got to do. I know what I need to do, I just haven't been able to bring myself to completely do it. So, being the advocate means that I will stand up for these mental health conditions. I will stand up for those who need support, and I will give them that support. That I will challenge the stigma. I've been known before to argue until I'm blue in the face about stigma. And that's what it means. But what it doesn't mean is that we don't get the bad days. You're listening to Pushing Back the Shadows. So the bad days then. The number of times over the past week I've kind of turned around and I said, well look, I should be able to do this. I should have the energy. I should have the motivation, etc., etc. And even amongst ourselves as advocates, there is that pressure that we should be able to cope, that we should have it all as it should be. Which is, if you think about it, completely ludicrous, because, you think about even the best doctor on the planet will still get things wrong, won't he? Or she. They'll misdiagnose things. They'll get things a little wrong, And you think about it, anybody doing any job anywhere in the world, no matter how qualified they are, or how experienced, or how knowledgeable, they will still get things wrong. And I'm not saying that when we're on a bad day we're getting things wrong. Okay? What I'm saying is that we will still have those days where whatever techniques we know of or put into place or whatever, they will still be bad days. There is no such thing as that kind of advocacy immunity. We don't get an immunity from the bad days just because we're an advocate. And the same goes for the mental health sufferers. It doesn't matter how long we've struggled, we'll still have those bad days. We will still have the days when nothing that we try will work. And so it's challenging that preconception that advocates have it all together all the time. Okay, we might not talk about it as much, because in some respects, in our own minds, it makes us feel a little less approachable if we're having a difficult time. And yet, it also can make us a bit more relatable. Can just bring us down a little bit, seemingly, to the level that we're put on, to the level of those around us. Yeah, do you know what? We know what we're talking about. We're having a bad day. We're struggling. It's difficult. Because at the end of the day, everybody, whether they're advocates, whether they're doctors, nurses, politicians, I don't know, you think about any job, we are all human. We all get it wrong. Or we all have bad days. And that's the thing, the bad days aren't a sign of weakness. They're not a sign of, oh, well, we clearly don't know what we're talking about because we're not coping very well. Because everybody gets them. That doesn't mean we can't still help people. Because to be a mental health advocate, we either know somebody who's got a particular condition and we know them really well because we know what that condition's like, or we've been through it, or we're still going through it. And that's the thing. We don't always have to have it all together to be able to talk about it. The whole point is that somehow, be it through ourselves or through a friend or a family member, we've got that experience with mental health. Be it good, be it bad, whatever that experience is. And that means we can stand up and we can talk about it. You think about it though, in each of our own ways, every single one of us who talks about mental health is an advocate. Because how many of us who wouldn't even call ourselves advocates are still championing those ideas, challenging the ones that are wrong, and lending our voices in support of a cause? And I know none of us would say really that we've got it all together. None of us would say, yeah, do you know what, I've beaten depression, it's never coming back, I'm all fine, I don't have bad days. That doesn't make us any less of an advocate. To be an advocate, we just have to speak up. Publicly speak up. We don't have to have it all together. We can still have bad days, but we can lend our voices to the cause. You're listening to Pushing Back the Shadows. So here's the little bit that's kind of the encouragement for you. Because I know it's hard. We go through our struggles and we think, well, how can we help anybody else? We can't even help ourselves, for crying out loud. And yet, every single one of us has that potential. Because it doesn't have to be massively public. You see the people who are on Twitter, like myself, speaking to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people, be it every day, be it every week, whatever. It doesn't have to be like that, Because to be an advocate, maybe it starts just with your community. A couple of friends, a couple of family members. Doesn't have to be a big thing. But you, every single one of you listening to this right now, you could be an advocate too. Speaking out about your mental health. Educating those around you about how it works. Or how it doesn't work, as the case may be. What kind of things help, what kind of things don't. Changing the attitudes of the people around you. And you know what? It's not even about changing the attitudes. The simple act of trying to change those attitudes, that makes you an advocate. And no, I'm not going to sit here and promise that you won't have the bad days. I won't sit here and say, do you know what? Being an advocate gives you everything you need to cope. It makes you feel so much better. Because it's a load of rubbish. Yeah, being an advocate, you learn different experiences, different things that help different people. You'll broaden that toolkit. But it won't fix your life. It won't give you that immunity. But you have the potential to be an advocate as well. So, I know I tend to like challenging you a lot, but I've got 2 challenges for you this week. Okay? The first one is to be an advocate in your immediate circle. So perhaps there's a friend you know who's struggling, perhaps there's a family member who doesn't understand mental health at all, Perhaps you yourself are struggling. Let's raise our voices and try and change the lives of whoever it is. Be it the person struggling, be it the person who doesn't understand, be it yourself. Let's raise our voices together and all of us be advocates for mental health, speaking out against stigma, challenging the misconceptions, and educating those around us as to what it actually means to have these mental health conditions. That's challenge number 1. See what kind of difference you can make to your community. And that's the thing, it might only be one person, might be 2. Or you never know, your community might be big, it might be 100 or 1,000. It doesn't matter on the numbers. Because at the end of the day, even if you help one person, that's one person you've helped. The second part of the challenge is this. Don't look at the advocate and think they're the ones who are going to help people, it's their job. And this actually makes me think of an experience in one of my churches that I used to attend, where things like visitations and pastoral care, that would all be left to the pastor. Because it would be, well, that's their job, that's what they're paid to do. And yet it's not the case. Because if everybody leaves it to them, what time are they going to have to do it all? It belongs to every single one of us. So the next time you see an advocate, whether they're tweeting, whether they're talking to somebody, speaking up, maybe offer them a word of encouragement, a word of thanks, or even maybe a little bit of support. I'm not saying that you don't do that anyway, because a lot of you people are actually very fantastic and encouraging, particularly me. I was really pleased with the response that I got when I put on Twitter that I was having a bad week. The response I got of, we're here, if you need us, keep going, you've got this. All the encouragement that came out. But remember the fact that being an advocate doesn't mean we've got it all together. Being an advocate means we will have those bad days. So just that little bit of encouragement for an advocate that you know, or the little word of thanks, or something along those lines, just to be a little ray of sunshine in their day. Because who knows, we might not actually get it from anyone else. Some advocates don't. Because sometimes it can be a thankless job. Doesn't mean we change it for anything else, because do you know what, even if we help somebody, that's thanks enough. But those are your challenges. See if you can be an advocate in your community. And see if you can encourage an advocate that you know. So that's all from me. I hope you guys have a very good week, and I shall catch you next week for episode 49 of the Pushing Back the Shadows podcast. You guys take care. You've been listening to Pushing Back the Shadows. To find out more, head over to pushingbacktheshadows.com and hit subscribe to get all of our latest updates straight to your inbox. Alternatively, connect with us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/AlexDavisPBTS, or you can visit us on Twitter at AlexDavisPBTS. Enable Pushing Back the Shadows to continue supporting people in the mental health community, their friends and their family. By pledging just $1 a month, you could help us to continue supporting people with depression, with anxiety, with bipolar and other mental illnesses. You can also unlock exclusive rewards, behind the scenes, sneak previews of upcoming posts and much, much more. So head over to www.patreon.com/AlexDavisPBTS to find out more.